for those that don't know, New York Ninja was filmed in 1984 by writer-director star John Liu, but the project was abandoned after the original distribution company went bankrupt. Decades later, like he was saying, this original footage was discovered and acquired by Vinegar Syndrome. The original footage ran between 6 to 8 hours, had no audio, no script, no cast or crew credits, no storyboards, no call sheets, like he mentioned, nothing. And the film was redirected and edited by Curtis M. Spieler and released in 2021, 37 years after the film was made or film was shot. So, yeah, like Ziggy said, how did Voyager get chosen to produce the score for this notorious film?
Hi, this is Colonel Deathcurse Society. For just as little as $3 a month, you can help feed Zigzag all the pizza for a week. If you want to become a member, check our website at deathcursesociety.com. Then click on the membership tab.
Thanks to our final girls and guys, Christy, Faze, Lorena, BD, Alex, and Robert. Our Crazy Ralphs, Bell's Fancy Creations, Dr. Smiley, Raymond, and the whole damn enchilada pod. And, of course, our camp counselors, Adam, Corey, Christy, Luke, Jimmy and Rachel, Stacy Lynn, Orlando, Chuck Chick, Dave, Patricia, Kristen, and JJ.
Right from Michigan, Voyager3. It's
that's right.
Greg Mastin. I love it. We've got Steve Greene. And we've got Aaron Greene. How you doing?
All right. There we go.
How y'all doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for joining.
I'm not over Halloween yet. It's not over.
No.
Is it ever
over?
Yeah, Greg's
never over.
It's year round now.
That's right.
Yep.
This has been a long time coming, guys. So I'm glad you're finally here. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So, thanks for having us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Guys are local guys to me. They're here in Michigan, so that's why kind of the connection. We always see them at Motor City Nightmares every year, and we've been talking about doing this forever. And it finally, we reached out and we got it done. We got the schedules lined up, and here they are, folks.
That's right.
Yeah. I remember meeting Gregory at Motor City this last year, chatting with him for a little while, and that was when we were just like, we've got to get these guys on, and they had a beautiful vinyl of their latest release, Killer Kabbage. Do you have that down there?
I don't have that one.
Okay.
They got me started on the right one.
Oh, okay.
There you go. He's getting off on the good foot.
Right. So, I mean, absolutely. And it's crazy, man, because this is like, I almost feel like it would be an acquired taste, just to sit around and listen to like a score or a soundtrack like this. But it's fucking good stuff, man. We figure this out. We got to figure out how you guys got here to do this and started doing like soundtrack scores like this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we always listened to that stuff ever since we were like, kids, really. I remember I would be sitting in my apartment as like a 8 or 9 year old with the gatefold to the Star Wars score, and just every day I'd listen to it and look at all those rectangular boxes of the stills from the film with the red outline on the boxes every day.
Star Wars.
We played music together for a long time. Steve and I are cousins and basically brothers.
Okay.
When people say, when people who know the band say, "Hey, I saw your brother the other day," I know they're talking about Steve. And I don't know. And Greg has been playing with us too. The three of us have pretty much been playing music together for over 30 years, if you can believe it.
Damn.
So, we've been in multiple bands together. We always kind of work with each other because we know and trust each other. And Steve had this idea in late 2012 to do some synth rock movie soundtrack based idea, and he wasn't sure if we would be into it or if we'd want to play that. I was always the singer in the band, and I play guitar. And Steve's like, "Do you want to do an instrumental synth band where you play guitar in a totally different way than you ever have?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." And basically the same thing to Greg. So it seemed weird at first because like we were going into uncharted territory musically for us. But within, I don't know, a couple of weeks, it was like, oh yeah, okay, I think we can do this. You know, we were writing our first songs that we still play to this day. So it came naturally to us, and we work well together. We always are able to communicate our ideas together.
Yeah.
And,
We even have certain phrases for like musical things. Like if you're a musician, there's little things in music that you know. Like this is a fun one.
are we going to tell them our secrets?
We'll tell
Steve.
We'll tell them just this one.
Okay.
So most musicians call this the push. That would be how most musicians would refer to it, the push, where that means you come in on the and, not on the one. Like Thin Lizzy and Iron Maiden do that all day long, all the time. It's just like bum ba bum ba ba and not
a little jump
on the one. But we call that the chiclet, and we know what we mean. We say, hey, this one's the chiclet. Oh, gotcha. Cool, no problem.
We didn't know there was a word called push or anything like that. So we were like, the thing, it's like, we got to come in a little early there. It's like the chiclet. And we're, oh, okay. And that was it. So we have a few things like that. We've always, I guess we work well together if we've been doing it for 30 years. So, and then, we were able to actually parlay our movie soundtrack style stuff into real movie soundtracks. So it's been working out.
Well, the way I like to explain it too is, so the band that the three of us were in the early 90s was called Forge. And if you read any of the interviews that we did, even way back in the early 90s, like the mission statement of Forge was always, we're like a heavy metal band, but it's based on science fiction. And, like it's always had this like tie-in to movie. It's always Aaron's lyrics were always like very much in that vein. So I always tell people when Steve came to Aaron and I with this idea, it was just finally going all in. You know what I mean? Like we had kind of toyed with the idea, we always had that movie tie-in, either sci-fi or horror or whatever. We were doing a lot of that in Forge or like epic battles or whatever. So we just went all in. We're like, okay, so no vocals. It's going to be pure goblin worship, like we're gonna lean into that. We're gonna lean into all the synth soundtracks that made the 80s horror movies great. We're gonna basically do whatever we want. So like I kind of think of it as like we just ditched the pretense. We weren't trying to fit in anymore. We were like, you know what, we're getting old, let's just do exactly what we want to do. And maybe it will work, and maybe we'll fall flat on our face and everybody's going to think we're idiots, but Glenn, you and I go back obviously a long way, so you sort of know that me coming out of sort of like the thrash metal, death metal, tons of double bass drum, 300 BPM songs, like coming out of that and going into a goblin approach is a totally different world, right? So it's more about what you don't play than it is what you play. And so that's how I always like to explain it. Like we were always going to do fake movie soundtracks. It just took us a while to get there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I adopted a whole new instrument. I was always a bass player. But then when Voyager 3 started, I'm like, I want to do all this synth stuff. I better start playing synthesizers.
And then he went out and bought all the most expensive ones.
Right.
So I mean, we're going to get a tally here of equipment by the end of this interview.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh! So you don't even want to.
Yeah, even some of the projects I worked with, in the past, I know my own kit's worth like $5,000, So I mean.
Yeah, it gets pricey quick.
Yeah. One fortunate thing is that I started accumulating all the must-have synths just before that whole world blew up and became like a huge thing. So I lucked out and I got some stuff before they doubled in price, basically.
Oh yeah. Shit.
Yeah. So
And it probably also before you had children,
that's very
which
true.
helps.
Yep. Very true. Very true. Yep.
Very nice. Well, how did the Greene cousins meet Greg and decide to form a band? How did that all start off? I mean, we may be going back 30 years, but let's talk about that.
I'd say it's the most happenstance thing probably ever. For those who are older school musicians, you used to make printed flyers, and you didn't just post something in the digital world and then forget about it. So we would always do
Take a phone number.
Yeah, that too, for sure. We would always do it the coolest flyers that we could possibly do. We would like incorporate comic book art or some book cover stuff or whatever, and kind of make it our own and build a flyer around that pre-existing art. So we were flyering one day, Aaron and I, and we hit all the places that you would think. You got to hit Royal Oak, you got to hit Ferndale, all the places where the high traffic is. So we walked into a old school record store. By the way, I dig your Harmony House shirt. This is kind of taking me back double now. But we went into a record store called Repeat the Beat.
Yes.
And we're putting up the posters. We're leaving the little handbills by the door. And somehow we struck up a conversation with Greg. I know why, because we recognized him from his other band that he was in then called World of Hurt. We saw them at the Majestic Theater, maybe, a month or so before that. So I think we recognized him, right, Aaron? And we were talking about, hey, we dug your band, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And we were playing with the drum machine at the time. Steve and I were in Forge, and we were playing with the drum machine. And like a couple months or maybe a couple of weeks before that, we were like, you know what? This drum machine just isn't kicking it, man. It's like, it sounds cool, but we don't have any energy to go with what we're doing on stage. We're up there trying to, sort of trying to be a little bit like Godflesh, and it was a struggle. And we had played our last show with the drum machine very recently before that, and we said we need a drummer, and we saw World of Hurt, and I remember thinking, well, we need to play with those guys because they're very cool, and I think our music would go well with theirs. And yes, so Steve was saying, we ran into Greg, and he said, hey, our band World of Hurt wants to play with you guys. And we said, we want to play with you guys, but we need to find a drummer in the meantime before we can play again. And then Greg, very Greg-like, just invited himself over. He's like, I'll come over. And so
well, hold on. Let me explain that. All right. So in the early 90s, Glenn, you'll definitely remember this. I'm sure like the older people in the chat or whatever will remember this, but like metal was like transitioning into that, like Godflesh. There you had other, like Ministry was getting big, or had just started and was getting bigger. So Godflesh was like my favorite industrial band. So it's funny that they sort of tell the story now. These two tell the story now that they wanted to get rid of the drum machine, but it was kind of the drum machine part of it that like drew me in. I was like, because I love Godflesh, and you guys are gonna do like Godflesh stuff, then I'm in. Like I didn't know that they were planning on ditching it altogether. It was just like so I feel like I got taken advantage of a little.
Did you get bamboozled?
I did.
Yeah.
For once, automation got replaced by a real person.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn the machine.
Let's
the machine.
Let's take away the quantizing. Out of here.
And Greg came over like a week later, and we played with him for, I don't know, a few hours, and said, okay, well, that's it. You're in the band. I don't even think we asked him if he wanted.
They bought me a Porsche.
It was badass. Well, yeah, a Porsche match.
We used the drum machine along with Greg for about a year or so, maybe a little less than a year.
Yeah, because they weren't quite ready to ditch it.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, like the way that we did that is, I transformed all the programming to have Greg doing all the meat and potatoes, the beat, but then all the little weird stuff that only a drum machine could do, and that still sounded like a drum machine, that was going to front of house. so I think Greg, you heard the whole beat in your ears so you could stay synced, and then front of house
Right.
got the ancillary stuff until one time at the Phoenix Plaza Amphitheater, that shit got switched, and then we never used the drum machine ever again. It was for the first minute or 30 seconds or whatever it was of that one song. We're like, oh my God, I don't know even what's happening right now. So I reached back behind it and unplugged it, and then we played the whole rest of the set with just Greg, and we never turned back, man. Never.
That was at Warp Tour, okay? That was our first time playing Warp Tour in Pontiac, and the first song, the inputs or the outputs or whatever were switched, and so the people in the crowd were hearing
the whole drum beat, and I was only hearing like the hits, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
Little fruity stuff. Greg was just hearing every so often with no meter whatsoever.
and it was just like chaos, and then he just took we just unplugged it and said, just play live, like what's that guy's name, Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it live.
And we just started playing, and it was like in Forrest Gump when he's a little kid and she's telling him to run, and he's got those braces on and he's just running from those bullies, and then he runs so fast that he runs out of the braces and starts running. That's what we did. We broke those braces and like let our wings go, and we started playing like a band organically, and we never used the drum machine again. That was
nice.
For sale.
Very cool.
That's
very cool.
Ironically, we're back to playing to a click all these years later. So whatever, man.
Yeah.
It comes full circle.
Yeah.
Indeed. We're getting
Ziggy.
older. Things are slipping. I get it, man. It's you got to stay synced up, man. It's good.
Yeah, Ziggy,
But
jump in there.
Glenn, you know that feeling when you're on stage and something is wrong and off, and you feel it. You're like scrambling to fix it.
I like to hear the one guitar coming in over the other one personally, and
right.
And it wasn't the right one, and I was just like, pop that thing right out of my fucking head quick and just went live like you guys.
Yeah, you panic for sure. And
I was shitting because like they're all looking at me like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
I did that. Let's see here. The early jam sessions you had, was it there? Did you guys have that? You kind of talked about you wanted to do it, then you went full circle with it. What did you ever have vocals included like in any of the early Voyager 3 stuff?
Yeah, Aaron said he was a singer, maybe not in the Voyager, but in some of the other bands.
After that,
yeah.
Like once it went instrumental, were there ever any vocals added or anything?
Nothing besides our credit songs for the 2 scores that we've done.
But those came later. We knew from the beginning that we weren't going to do vocals, and we never even tried that. So it really made me I've always been a singer guitarist, right? So I never really even put all that much effort into the guitar. I was playing, but I was doing it almost as a tool. Like here's the tunes we need to get out. Here's my vocals, and I'm going to do them both at the same time. And there were times where we played with another guitarist who would play leads. So I wasn't doing that kind of heavy lifting. But with this band, I didn't have any vocals to hide behind, or however you did it. And I had sort of stunted my growth as a guitarist way back as a teenager. I thought, I know a bar chord, I can move this thing all over the fretboard, and that's all I need to know. And I knew when we started this band that I couldn't get by on just bar chords, and I had to really reapply myself to the instrument. So being a guitarist without singing was like really jarring for me, and I had a great excuse to try to become a better guitarist. And that really is the story of all 3 of us as musicians. We've constantly wanted to push ourselves. Greg isn't necessarily playing the first thing that would come to his mind that he would have thought of 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And Steve certainly isn't playing bass. So the whole point of what we've been doing is trying to push ourselves. And then the vocals that we've had in 2 songs are, like Steve said, for the movie soundtracks. And those were like, when we did the New York Ninja soundtrack, we had the idea to throw on an end credits song with vocals, and I was like, oh my, do you mean like like Hearts on Fire, or This Is the End? What's that song?
Or Danger Zone.
Far From Over by Frank Stallone. And what's the other one, Steve?
Highway to the Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
The end credits of First Blood. Those kind of movies that those songs that tell you exactly what you just saw in the movie. They just sum it up with the vocals. And I was like, I could write that shit in 15 minutes, and I did.
He did.
Because Steve had sent over the tune for it, and I was like, I just went basically into another dimension, and I followed that tune and came up with lyrics almost stream of consciousness. And I sent the lyrics to the guys. No, I think I sent myself singing it.
Yeah, over the MP3 that I had emailed.
Yeah, and that like a half hour later, and was like, well, that's it. That's the song.
That one's in the can.
And I think I texted back, Jeebus, what the hell? How'd you do that?
That was great.
The other thing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, but that the reason he's able to do that is because just like you guys, we grew up on all of those movies. He knew exactly what it had to sound like. He knew exactly what it had. Like Steve, obviously, when he came up with parts, knew exactly how it had to be, for a credit scroll song. So, but to answer your question about the vocals, like we went into this band knowing that it was going to be instrumental. The only reason we did vocals is because we needed a credit scroll song. And that, like the first one, I don't know did they ask us to do, I feel like they asked us to do it, right? For a little extra. With
New York Ninja, it was like we were already done with the score, and then we got.
Right.
I had another conversation with Curtis, the guy who did the edit and the redirecting of it, and he said, "Hey, I think they want to do like a credit song," but then that was crazy because see, there's all these depths and multiple levels to that film, as you probably well know. But another behind the scenes thing is, of course, that New York Ninja had absolutely no audio when they found it. It was not edited. It was just literally the principal photography reels, like 70 or 80 of them on this palette. And they didn't have a script. They didn't have call sheets. They had nothing. But somehow, and I don't know how this went down, but there was this artist called, was it Suicidal Bob or something? Dang it. I'm going to have to, I can't remember the name of the artist, but somehow he recorded like a rap song back then, originally back in like 84, even
for the movie. Yeah.
For the movie. And that never came out because the movie never came out, obviously. I can't remember the name of that artist. Shoot. I'll have to let you guys know.
Okay.
I'll look it up on the Gurgle.
So
just give me a second.
They found that track way later. And then, of course, because they found that track, well, that had to go in the credits. I mean, I'll even tell you it had to go in the credits because it just had to. That's the original era song that was done. So then our credit song didn't even get used in the credits, and they used the song that was on the title card again for the credits, which is the one that has like sort of the vocals in there, like just the kind of the vocal-esque singing and the hand claps. Then after that song finished up, then the rap song comes in. I mean,
it's Bronx Style Bob.
I knew it was a Bob, Bronx Style Bob. Yeah, he did one track back then originally, and of course they never used it because everything fell apart with the film. Right. But they found it. I think they just bought a record from like Australia, like it was pressed.
Yeah, like on eBay or something.
And then they carefully, because Vinegar Syndrome was good at digitizing things, obviously. So they digitized that record too and put it on the end of the film. Who'd have thunk it?
Nice.
That whole movie is just it's the whole fucking story is wild. How it
was
shot and shelved and forgot about. But at what point do you guys get dragged into this mess?
Well, we
pretty early on.
Some of the viewers may not know the story on this.
Yeah, so, go ahead, Frank. Tell them about what happened.
For those that don't know, New York Ninja was filmed in 1984 by writer-director star John Liu, but the project was abandoned after the original distribution company went bankrupt. Decades later, like he was saying, this original footage was discovered and acquired by Vinegar Syndrome, a film preservation and home video distribution company. The original footage ran between 6 to 8 hours, had no audio, no script, no cast or crew credits, no storyboards, no call sheets, like you mentioned, nothing. And the film was redirected and edited by Curtis M. Spieler and released in 2021, 37 years after the film was made or film was shot. So yeah, like Ziggy said, how did Voyager get chosen to produce the score for this notorious film?
Right. Well, we actually got an email from Vinegar Syndrome when we were heading out on a short tour with our friends, the Cybertronic Spree, who we just did some shows with.
You just did a couple more shows.
Yeah. So we got an email when we were on the way out there, basically, or like the day before we left. So we're on the way to Chicago, which is the first show of that small tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to the guys, "Hey guys, I don't know where this is going, because over the years you get a lot of people asking things or suggesting things or trying to put something together, and I'm not going to say that any of them are ill-willed. It's just that most of them don't come to fruition, and that's just the way the world works. Whatever.
Yeah.
Budgets fall through, somebody gives up, whatever the reason is. So I was like, take this with a grain of salt. But this company called Vinegar Syndrome, and I had heard of who they were, but I didn't know about them like I do now.
Right.
But I'm like, yeah, they're notable. I mean, people make a big deal about what they do and stuff like that. So I go, they have this film that they found, this old film, and they're gonna be recreating it, or I mean, not recreating it, but like putting it together.
Yeah.
And they want music, and they wanted to know if we would be interested in doing the score. So that's one of those ones, in my opinion, I'm sure the guys would agree with me, that you just say yes and work out the details later. Because let me tell you what, Voyager 3 was spawned from the spirit of all the films done in like the 70s and the 80s and things of that nature, of genre films, of horror films, sci-fi films, even
ninja films.
Yeah, exactly. So we
Sho Kasugi, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So we're in the mindset of creating music that kind of, grabs some vibe from that era and other stuff too. Not just that, but definitely a lot of that vibe is in our spirit when we're making that.
Mm-hmm.
So are you telling me that we get to fucking time travel and go back basically in time and score one from that era?
Dude, that had to be a trip.
The answer is yes. We'll figure out the details later.
That had to be a trip.
We knew we could write that in our sleep, and also it was very early in the process, as far as I know. I don't think they had any voice cast yet, like
No.
Don Dragon Wilson. I don't think they had any of that. I think we were possibly one of the earliest people they talked to, probably because they knew we'd need time, so they didn't waste time like thinking about getting to us. They got to us pretty early, and so it was September of 19, and the movie was being put together all through 20, and of course COVID screwed everything up, and made us take longer to do it, made them take longer to do it, and the movie came out at the end of 21. So we worked on our soundtrack from June, I think June of 20, or at least the recording. We were writing it from January of 20. We recorded it and we finished it in August of 20. So
and then we turned it in, and we also did our little documentary that's attached to the Blu-ray too, around that same time, like right at the end of August, because that had to get to them at a certain time to meet all their whole production deadline. Typical stuff like that. It's a chain of events that has to all be timed right.
I am definitely going to have to pick up the Blu-ray next time I'm at a con that Vinegar Syndrome's at, because it's such a cheesy movie, but you almost can't help but love it.
Right, exactly.
And I love go ahead.
I think the only reason they reached out to us was the guy who was scanning the film was a fan of ours. So it was just like this weird twist of fate. Like they obviously asked this guy, like, do you have any thoughts on who should do the music? And he's like, have you heard this band Voyager 3 out of Michigan? And then And then, I remember Steve telling me in the van, and I was only like half paying attention because it's Steve, and he talks a lot. And and he said something about an 80s ninja movie, and I'm like, so what is it? It's gonna be like they're gonna make it look like an 80s ninja movie. It's gonna be like one of those fake 80s like throwback movies, which would still be cool.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, it was literally shot in 1984, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm done. You don't have to say anything else. We're doing it.
Now, were they sending you like dailies or clips of it just to get you so you could get in the mood of what you want to get out there? Or
No,
they sent us the whole movie. They sent us the whole movie like pretty much done, but it had no sound. All they sent us was a printed script, so you had to like read along like for each scene to figure out what was going on.
There's a funny thing to that is speaking of things being incomplete or trying to work from almost backwards or however you want to put that. Like nothing was traditional, right? So I think somehow my energy grabbed onto that vibe and continued with that, because the very first track on the record, just simply called The Ninja, I wrote that before we got the film. I was just so pumped that we were going to be doing this. I'm like, I love these 8 ninja movies in my head. Okay, I remember that from when I was like 10 years old. Cool. And then I kind of came up with that and sent that to the guys. And Aaron put the guitar stuff over that you hear. And then after that, every track after that, it was done to the film. That didn't have any audio. I mean, there was no Foley, which is sound effects. It was just simply mute. Yeah. No audio of any type, and just an hour and whatever it is, hour and a half of edited story, of film. And yes, a script.
Oh, God.
Crazy.
Yeah, and guys, when you watch this, because it is available on Tubi right now, and a couple other places. But when you watch this, keep in mind, no audio on the film at all. They hired current actors in 20 and 21, or 19, 20, and 21 to come in and dub in. So even that gives it a little bit of charm, because it feels like those old karate movies, ninja movies.
It's far from perfect to sync. So
right.
Yeah, it's not perfectly synced, I can tell you that. And there are some names you'll recognize too, like Linnea Quigley and Michael Berryman, and like they went out and got some real people that for B movie fans like all of us, are their names are a big deal. So I mean, as they kept like piling on to this project, and then they're like, oh yeah, and we're gonna put the soundtrack out on Mondo Death Waltz, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man! Like it just, and then they had the premiere in LA, so the 3 of us flew out to LA and like sat in the Donnie Darko movie theater, the Arrow out there in LA, and watched it on a big screen, and we were sitting right behind Cynthia Rothrock and Don the Dragon Wilson watching the movie.
Nice.
So I mean, it was all very surreal, for sure.
Tarek wants to know, do you have any old tracks from Forge laying around? And do you want to, or did you remake any of them for Voyager?
Good question.
Yeah, we do have Forge on iTunes. There's a few bands since us. We were the first fucking band named Forge, but there's a few that have stolen that name.
Yeah, all of our albums are on streaming.
If you type specifically like Forge, Bring on the Apocalypse, or Forge Trials, Forge Decloaking, those are our albums from those, so then you can't mix it up with any other asshole band. But we only once so far, we might do it again, we had some kind of show, I don't remember why it was special, a Voyager 3 show, but we were like, wait,
we're playing 2 sets, right? Didn't we play 2 sets? Wasn't it that one?
This was at Smalls.
Okay. And I know what you're talking about, though.
It was some kind of thing. I don't know, but maybe it was an album release.
I don't know what you're getting at, because I can probably answer it once I know what you're talking about.
We took an old Forge called Inbred Fear.
Oh, okay.
And just reworked it as a Voyager 3 song, and kind of spaced it out and made it kind of trippy. No vocals or anything, but we made it, and we were we were like, okay, Jeff, our buddy Jeff, who was in Greg's old band World of Hurt, and Jeff has known us forever. We're like, we're gonna play this, and wait till Jeff's face lights up when he recognizes this song.
Yeah, like you know how it is. You do stuff for like
we're
somebody's reaction.
We're playing it, and all three looking at him, you know, playing the song that sounds almost nothing like the Forge song. And we're looking at him, and he's like, cool, and no recognition. And we had to talk to him afterwards. Did you recognize? He's like, no.
Okay, a couple of more Forge factoids. First, that was the Doom Fortress album release show. Yeah. So you're right, album release show. And then, so yeah, all the Forge music is on all the streaming platforms. And Aaron mentioned the album title, so you can look them up that way. Now, unreleased stuff, no for Voyager 3, because it's just so different. And me personally, I'm just not interested in going into that bubble. It's a whole other bubble, especially in my mindset. But I will say that we started a YouTube channel for Forge, and there's two lost demos from like the early 2000s that are put on there. One was produced by Vinny Dombrowski from Sponge, and the other one was just something that we were working on around that same time. And there's also a live CBGB set that we did on our very first East Coast tour ever. We recorded the set at CB's, and that's on there, just audio, not any video. So I'll get you the link to that. So that's a little extra. If anybody is like, I remember those guys, and here's a couple extra things that you may have never heard before. So that could be fun.
Colonel, you got a question for these guys?
Yeah, speaking of Voyager 3, you guys already mentioned Goblin. What were some of your other influences creatively?
John Carpenter.
80s era King Crimson.
John Carpenter, 80s era King Crimson, Zombie. Guitar-wise, very much David Gilmour and Pink Floyd. Also Brian May from Queen. Especially as a jump-off point, when I was trying to get my head into that space, like what am I going to be as a guitarist in this band? What's appropriate for this kind of material? I thought of that, of those guys a lot.
Vangelis for me. Whew, yeah. He's so good. He was so
Tangerine
good.
Dream.
Yeah, that was one I was going to mention. You guys kind of feel like a modernized version of Tangerine Dream to me.
Cool.
So
I would. They're like my favorite. Like, I don't know. I think they're my favorite band. Maybe at this point, but I don't know. We can only hope to be as good as them. And
I just remember seeing them on so many soundtrack, credits.
Oh
back
yeah.
in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately own most of them at my wallet's expense.
Hey, we all have our vices.
Yeah, I mean, so we draw influences from all the things that we mentioned, but we really hope, like, when people listen to our music, that it just reminds them of a period of time, like when like movie music was just better, right? And
oh yeah,
there's,
God, man.
I mean, that's all we want. We just, we want to it's like a warm blanket, right? You hear it and it feels relatable, like you've heard it before. It's comfortable, and hopefully we push it in a way that is unique to us, though. At the same time,
Greg, it's like a warm Doom Fortress blanket, isn't it?
That's right. Steve with the Gene Simmons merchandising.
I was going to say, which is available for sale.
Yeah, at the low price.
Do you guys use like even when creating this stuff, no video cues ever on stage or anything to help out, like tell the story without vocals? I'm just trying to, you know what I mean?
Kind of leave that up to the listener.
When we're watching Parisi compose, so
yeah.
It's a lot of extra production is one of the main reasons, to do that. It's a lot.
Sure.
It's a lot to make that happen. For one, and for two, leave it up to the listener, because maybe they might have a different idea.
That's true.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun, like, naming the songs to kind of like, point you in a direction, but then, we don't want to say too much either, so it's kind of up to you. Maybe it reminds you of a particular scene in the movie or something, Although maybe you guys especially could get away maybe
with this newfound popularity a little bit around New York Ninja about doing a screening and a live orchestral performance like Fabio did.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also
Now
a
you're
lot of
talking.
production.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's a lot of production, but
Yeah.
you know,
But no,
dude,
I
that
thought
could be
about
fun.
You're right. You're right. But yeah, it's a lot of front end work.
It-
So
it-
like
Yeah.
for him, it makes sense because he's gonna do all that, 2 months of work and then do 27 dates or whatever.
Sure.
But with us, I don't know how much we could.
Yeah,
it's
maybe 2
never
days.
say never, but it's a lot of work for sure.
One of the things though that scares the hell out of me is like New York Ninja's an hour and a half movie. We gave them an hour and 15 minutes of music.
Yeah. That's a lot of music.
I don't know if there's any possible way we could practice an hour and 15 minutes and sync it up to the movie perfectly without screwing up. It scares me.
Yeah, and when you do music to film too, like Glenn, you'll know this. Not everything ends on a nice even one. You know what I mean? Like the scene cuts, and guess what? The song has to be done at that point. And it's my hat's off to like guys like Fabio Frizzi and Claudio. Like that, I don't know. They've obviously worked it out. They know how to do it. But we marveled at when we watched Demons, we were marveling at but they had a lot of breaks. Like Aaron said, they had a lot of breaks. Like there were a lot of times where they were just like sitting there watching the movie. I don't feel like that's the case with New York Ninja.
No, I mean, if you guys are the whole time, I understand that because he did have a lot, and then you'd see him, he'd be all like, raising his hand and up and then bringing him in, and then boom, he was giving lots of hand signals and visual cues. And,
right.
I can't imagine. So Steve, you'd be like all night. Okay,
Yeah.
But
also, oh, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
It's if with Demons, I was blown away that like he kept it so simple. I mean, it's really, there's like 4 basic songs and they kind of go and they're different versions sometimes, but it's not an overwhelming amount of music. But with New York Ninja, there's so many different things, and there's no chill in that soundtrack. There's no coasting. So that frightens me.
Yeah, I think Steve, didn't Curtis say when we finally turned it in, you turned in the finished thing? I think his exact first comment was, "Well, you guys definitely over delivered."
I think you're right. I think
That's good though. It's good though.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
New York Ninja deserved that kind of extra TLC in my opinion, because I mean that's the most unique situation I've ever heard of. It's so special, so it deserved that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were so excited to do an 80s ninja movie that
Yeah.
ninja movie.
I sat down and watched it yesterday, and I was enjoying the hell out of it. It's not a perfect movie by far, but
oh no,
That's
does.
entertainment.
It's entertaining, and your guys' score and just the way that movie was shot, and the themes of it all.
Old New York,
and it brings you in. Yeah, and it was nice. I'll be honest.
The footage of old New York. Yep.
Yeah. See the World Trade Center in there, because new movies don't have that anymore, and it kind of sucks.
Right.
Hey,
and the subways are gross.
Oh God, yes.
God.
Another film you worked on was you did the end credit scene, or not the end credit scene, the final scene of Movie Theater Massacre featuring Linnea Quigley, which was released in 2023 and filmed entirely at the Redmond Theater in Michigan. Since that was filmed locally, was that how you got involved with that, scoring that scene?
Yeah, actually, we've known the writer and director of that film, Ian Courtney, for forever. Greg has known him even longer than we have.
Yeah, we used to go to hotel parties when he was like 14. He would be at a hotel party, and he was a straight edge kid, like straight edge hardcore kid, and he'd be hanging out with a bunch of us in a hotel, all getting like hammered, jumping off the second level of the hotel and stuff. I got stories about Ian, but anyways, like Steve said, we go way back with him.
Nice.
Yeah, and he asked us if we would do a song for the like the climax of the movie, and we're like, of course, yeah, let's do it. Sent the scene to us, and we just started throwing ideas around. Steve had an idea I had an idea, and we were like, let's put them together, and they've worked seamlessly together. And then Greg came in, and we're like, how about this? How about that? And Greg's great at Greg will do this thing where he'll hear something that he feels like you are almost playing, and he'll go, like, literally he'll go, you're like 2 notes away from what I want to hear. Can you that way? And I'll go, like this, and he'll go like that. Do it like that. I'll go, perfect, done. So that kind of stuff. We there's never any ego involved. You know, we're just like throwing ideas off of each other, and just I wouldn't even call it compromise. It's like, you know, if I'm playing something and somebody else is like, well, it would be better like this, then I'll try it like that, and then okay, it is better. Or maybe I'd stick with the first thing. Maybe that's better. But whatever. We're always kind of coaching each other and pushing each other, you know. And so with that song, that was quick. Like we just watched the scene a few times, well, over and over. And then it's about timing. Okay, well, we got this part, and it's really cool when it kicks in, but damn it, we only get to play it for 30 seconds, you know. So the scene dictates the length of all those things and the feel, and we're just going by the vibe of the scene, and then we did it. We sent it to him, and he loved it, and he named it, didn't he? I think we
we called it what did we call it?
I think we called it Slaughter.
Yeah, and then he says, "Hey, if it's okay with you guys, can we call it Slaughtered into Space?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure,
of course."
Yeah.
I tried to find that movie as well, but I couldn't find it anywhere, at least streaming. So
yeah. So Ian shot that. I think he shot it all on it. I think it's all done on his iPhone, believe it or not. And but it came out so good. And the thing I was gonna say when Aaron was talking about like coming up with that song for that scene, the best part about doing like music for movies is like when the three of us were talking about like, okay, so we're going to have like this ambient music sort of leading into that part, but then it needs to pause and be totally silent when he says the word run. And then as soon as he's done saying the word run, that's when it kicks in. You know what I mean? But that goes back to like us watching these movies and just knowing what it has to be, you know? So that's like the best part to me is like figuring out, okay, so where's it going to pause, and like, is he going to like look at the camera a certain way, and then that's when we're going to start, and you know, like just figuring out that stuff. That's the best part about doing like real movies.
Yeah, very fun.
Awesome.
Here's an interesting question, and this was posted earlier, but I wanted to kind of stay on topic earlier. Tarek wants to know, in El Guanto Nero, please tell me you put apple juice in that pint of whiskey before spilling it everywhere.
Greg, do you remember what was in there? What was that really?
No, it was real alcohol. Do you know, Glenn? Do you know the singer from Writhing, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt is the drunk guy in the video. We got Matt to come down there, and he was really drinking whatever was in that bottle. And I was like, dude, you need to slow down, man. Like, it's a video, you know. Like, you don't need to. He was very method that night. We'll call that method acting. But it was real liquor, and it was not fake at all. We don't have the budget for fake, you know. He bought it.
I think the guy is bummed that we wasted it. Is that what he's saying?
I
think
maybe, yeah.
It's like,
maybe that was his angle, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was probably best that the rest of that gets spilled out at that point.
Yeah.
Because I think Matt was feeling it.
Yeah.
Well, that helped him transform into the zombie after the alien.
Right, exactly.
Saps him, so that helped. More method. It's all good.
Like the zombie and Porky's. Blah.
Yeah.
We filmed that Il Guanto Nero video in, I believe it was October, but it was unseasonably cold.
So cold.
Yeah.
It was freezing, and we were fully dressed, but the woman, the hero in that video, well, we didn't know it was going to be that cold. The first day we were shooting, it wasn't like that. So she was wearing this like really, you know,
tight, thin leather thing, you know,
outfit with no cover, no jacket or anything. It looked great, but it didn't provide her with any warmth. And so she had to like kind of muster up her guts for the next bunch of days where it got colder and colder. And she, you know, at least while we were filming, she was covering up between takes, but while we were filming, she keep like wearing that stuff, and she couldn't, for continuity's sake, she couldn't change it. So
yeah, the worst of it was literally, it's pretty much in the middle of the video. It's when the zombie dude finds her and he's got the machete and he attacks her, and they're kind of doing that little fight scene. That was outside, and that was when it was goddamn freezing. So
yeah,
that's off.
And by the way, we shot it at the Russell, and we didn't ask permission at all. So we're out there with like lights and doing it guerrilla style, and the security guy keeps walking by, and just like, man,
that's right.
We're gonna get pinched.
We filmed El Guantanamo just like they filmed New York Ninja. God bless America.
Right.
No permits pulled.
Yep. Here's one more from BK. He says, "What are some of your favorite Michigan unknown bands, past or present?"
Well, I got
We have so many.
my favorite band. One of my favorite bands of all time, Michigan or not, is Wig from Ann Arbor.
Holy shit!
That's a great one. Yeah.
Top notch.
They were around from the late 80s into the 90s, and I saw them open for Butthole Surfers at St. Andrews Hall in 1989, and I was only 14. So obviously I was there for Butthole Surfers, didn't know anything about Wig, and they opened the show, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? These guys are insane. The music was very trippy, very intense. I didn't do any drugs or anything. I was 14, but it felt like doing that. Like watching them and Butthole Surfers, you were just transported into another dimension. So we always loved Wig. I hit Steve to Wig immediately, and then we were lucky enough that we got to open for them once or twice.
Yeah, one was at the Falcon Club for sure. I remember that.
Yeah, and they got signed to Island Records, and Island didn't treat them well, which happens a lot to.
Yep.
The record label just doesn't care and doesn't push them. But they did put out 2 albums on Island, and they're 2 of my favorite albums ever. So Wig would be my number 1.
All the Ann Arbor bands kind of got the shaft out there. Like, I mean, Taproot is probably the only one that really got out.
Yeah, they made a dent.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Wig, I got to open for in like 1991 at I want to say the Blind Pig, man.
That makes sense. They play there all the time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your?
Yeah. I was going to mention Burn the Hearse. Has anybody heard of that band?
A million times.
Not in 20 or what, about 13 years now, but yeah.
But we should mention Slasher Dave. He's like our partner in crime a little bit with the synth music. So like, shout out to Slasher Dave. Acid Witch. If you haven't heard Acid Witch, check that out too. That's a bit heavier version.
Whole world, man.
And I don't know. I think back to like the early '90s, like 20 Dead Flower Children. We were good friends with those dudes, and
yeah.
There's a lot of bands we could talk about. I think you'll have to be more specific. Like, what genre do you like?
Another great band from the Detroit area. They're still around to this day, more in the prog rock bubble. But Discipline has always been fantastic. Aaron used to
Discipline.
Magic Bag. Back when the Magic Bag still had the theater seats in there.
Nice.
Discipline.
Nice.
And Hellmouth. If you like hardcore, Hellmouth. Have you heard Hellmouth? That's a good one.
Hellmouth is, I forget the guy's name, the singer now, but
Jay Navarro from the Suicide Machines. Yep.
He had the Midas touch in Detroit for a while there. Anything that guy did, it was big.
Yeah.
It was hot. It was really hot. And so Hellmouth was definitely
Suicide Machines are good friends of ours.
Yeah.
Those. I mean, we got a lot of bands, man. We can talk bands all night.
Yeah,
there's a million Detroit bands.
There's a bunch.
We know a lot of cats, man.
All right.
I'm Michigan here, but I got Wisconsin below me. I've got Oklahoma over here, and I got Cincinnati down in the corner with Colonel. So I mean, you know.
Oh, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We just stayed there. We went to the, what was it, bar that it seemed like The Shining, the Overlook Ridge, or
Oh yeah.
You know about this, Colonel?
Yeah, we're so busy when you guys are in town. When the fuck do we get to go? We're always working.
we took pictures inside there together, like sitting on the couches and stuff. And I love the men's room and the women's room. The men's room has Jack Nicholson like looking through the door, and then the women's room is her with the, you know, cowering on the other side of the door. It's in Cincinnati.
Where is this, Colonel?
Fuck, I've never been. We're always so busy. I don't go to bars, man. I'm boring like
I
that.
saw it on their shit when I was going through, looking at getting information. I was like, Overlook, Cincinnati, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well,
We
he
have to play
lives.
poker.
Well, he lives like 5 minutes north of Bobby Mackey's, and we've driven by it several times.
Oh, yeah.
But I have yet to be able to go in there and
never look for
spend some
ghosts
time.
there.
Yeah.
Well, you can't now because they're tearing it down.
Oh,
Are they really?
Yeah.
Isn't the portal to hell in there? Like, you can't tear that down.
That's what they say, but apparently they're not worried about it. They're like, fuck it, just tear it down.
And just open it up.
Just build
the headstones, but you kept the bodies, didn't you?
Right. Build a nursing home over it. It'll be fine. You know?
Yeah.
Preferably a daycare. Fuck them kids.
Fuck the kid.
Damn.
Ziggy, get another question out here for these guys.
all right. Where are we at here? We did that one. Okay, your fifth full-length album is another soundtrack, the independent horror film Killer Kabbage.
Yes.
Tell us about this film and how did this one come to be, and what was kind of what's the vibe on this one?
Well, the coolest thing about what started Killer Kabbage is what any musician or artist or somebody doing creative work would hope for, is that somebody saw your previous work and called you up because of that. So Michael Dotson, who wrote and directed Killer Kabbage along with Jude Reed, emailed us and he goes, New York Ninja was awesome. I loved it. Would you guys be interested in scoring our film? And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt, because a lot of people ask for stuff or are presenting ideas, but you just don't know if it's going to click or not for many reasons. So I was like, yep, let's keep in touch, because they hadn't even filmed yet. Actually, I think, well, Killer Kabbage is kind of interesting. Is that he did a version of that film. It was a short, and he did it like 12 years ago or something like that, like right when he was out of college or something like that. Filmed on like a real primitive camcorder, not even HD, I don't think. You know, just very bare bones. Let's just get this done because we love making film. So I love that spirit, because I've always had the punk rock roots. Like, our very first Forge cassette ever was me with a typewriter, no word processing, and I had to get it right the first time to then give that master sheet to the printer to make the J cards for the cassette. I couldn't change the font size. It's the typewriter, so I had to figure out, does this line fit on one line? Anyway, I digress. So they'd made a very primitive version of Killer Kabbage many years ago. Then it was his mission to do a proper version of Killer Kabbage. So that's when he contacted us, when they had their kind of script together, and I think they had most of the cast. And then I'm like, yeah, we're on board so far. Let's see how everything progresses. Everything progressed fine. This one did not fall apart.
Huh.
It was great. So he sent us a couple of scenes so we could kind of get the spirit of what they're doing. And it's really like the Trauma vibe. Like, if you guys have seen Trauma films, it's a lot of that spirit, the little bit kind of self-aware sometimes and silly and that kind of thing sometimes, but it has some serious parts too, a little bit. So it's got that whole Trauma spirit, I would say.
Are we in the ballpark with the Killer Tomatoes?
That's right.
Yeah,
and they even do like a wink to the camera. You'd have to watch the film, but the thing I liked about it was a Michigan production. So these guys are all up in Sault Ste. Marie. So,
and this one was as far as it was a different process, because with New York Ninja we were doing most of the stuff remotely. Like, Steve was writing parts, sending it to us. We would think of our parts, and I'd add my part, and we recorded it together. But for months, especially like that spring of 2020, we couldn't hang out and bounce ideas off each other in person. So with Killer Kabbage, we were together, and we were like literally sitting in the room together, watching the movie and going, okay, what if we did this here? What if we wait for them to do that when that thing explodes, and then we come up with that? And so we were like, it was even more organic in that way. But you know, the funny thing is, I don't even know if there's any difference in when you listen to it. Like, we've been playing together for so long, I don't know if anybody could ever tell, oh, they wrote this in pieces and this one they wrote together. I don't think it even makes any difference now. But for us, it was a different experience.
Yeah, the process for us is, you know, different and cool and evolving and inspiring and all that sort of thing. And some of it is you have to do it this way because you have no choice, you know, depending. But I remember 2 cool rehearsals. There was 2 weeks in a row, and I think, Greg, you brought like some old beater laptop to the rehearsal spot, and we called up the MOV file on the laptop, and it was, you know, kind of a small screen, but it was enough for us to see it. And I remember those 2 rehearsals, we came up with like probably 5 of the main tentpole things that we do in the score, just all of us being in the room. And Greg made this really cool sample that we later kind of redid in a more robust way. That's that weird sample you hear in the score. It comes up all over the film, but it sounds like a kind of like a hip hop sample, I guess, especially compared to what we do normally. You'll probably recognize it, but Greg came up with the concept of that sample early on. So those 2 rehearsals, we kind of came up with like our palette almost, you know. It was very cool. So then when we went and really started to score, we kept pulling from these different palettes, and sometimes we would do it stripped down, sometimes we do it slower, faster, typical film score stuff. You know, you kind of make the themes work for the different scenes, however they need to. But I remember those 2 rehearsals were badass. We walked away from that with
like 75% of it done.
Yeah, exactly. We like working hard those 2 weeks, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to be in the same room, man. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Greg.
I got a little bit of an off question here. Being a musician, is it hard to watch movies and not focus entirely on the music, or too much on the music?
Yes.
And
somehow I can do both. I can watch a movie like, quote unquote, like a normal person, but when I want to, I can totally, because I also do video production and stuff like that as well. Like I shot El Guantanamo and edited it and stuff like that.
Okay.
For example. But I can go into the behind the camera mode if I want to and notice, okay, that's what they did there. I know how they did that or whatever. It's kind of fun to jump in and out, personally speaking, for me.
Oh,
it depends on the movie for me. Sometimes a movie will make the music is perfect, but you don't even notice it because all it's doing is manipulating your head. And then maybe the second time you watch it, you go, oh, I hear these tunes now. But the first time it's just all mood and it's the same music, you know. But sometimes I can focus on the music if I really want to. But usually I think even with, you know, like the great stuff like Star Wars, you're not meant to really notice it the first time you see it. I mean, certainly in the opening credits, right? Because there's going on. Right. But when you're watching the movie, you're not just sitting there focusing on the music. Not the first time you see it. The music is just pushing you one way or the other and backing up the visuals on screen. Usually, you know, I think sometimes if you notice the music too much, maybe the movie might not be that good.
Like, I think that's the magic of John Williams, though. I mean, he's a master at that.
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah.
Star Wars. Fuck, man, this guy's
right.
Everything close.
And we talk about that a lot when we're doing movies too. Like we very much subscribe to the idea that every sort of main character has a theme, and that's definitely a John Williams thing. But along the lines of music and movies and like focusing on it too much, so I actually did one in reverse. Like, so we talked about Tangerine Dream and my unhealthy obsession with them. So I have Sorcerer on vinyl, and I love the score for Sorcerer, but I've never seen the movie. So I did the opposite. I knew all the music in and out, and then I went and watched the movie, and then I couldn't even focus on the movie because then once the music started, I was like, oh, here's that one song, and so I sort of did it in the opposite direction.
Right.
And that, I don't think I've ever done that before. Like,
All right.
So
There's
I don't
a
know.
few that I've also done that with, like more obscure movies, but I had the score. I can't remember offhand what one I've.
You mean like Rocky IV, Steve?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The best Rocky, according to somebody, right?
This guy.
Hey, man, it has it all, but it does have the best soundtrack, that goes along with it. Those
See,
songs,
see,
man.
Steve.
Yep.
I knew Glenn would back me up.
When
If
he's
he dies,
right,
he dies.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, while we're on that track, what are some of your favorite film scores of all time? Then, Steve, I'll start with you.
Oh,
Hmm.
hold on. Let me think.
Oh,
I know mine.
There's so many. Okay, the score to Day of the Dead. I just spun that a couple days ago with a nice hot cup of coffee. That John Harrison score from Day of the Dead.
That's a good one.
Is ridiculously fantastic, and it's also unexpected. I think more people probably would imagine that the score to a George Romero zombie film would be more like how Dawn of the Dead sounds, and that's totally fine. That's also a fantastic score. But Day of the Dead, John Harrison came out of nowhere with that. It's got like a little bit of like tropics to it, and also the horror stuff. He just did his own thing, and I love it for that. It stands on its own, and there's no other score that sounds like that. The score to Blade Runner is that's an archetypal film score for sure.
Vangelis.
Yeah, yep. And I'll do an even 3. Let's see.
If you watch our podcast, you know, like Aaron and I are just dying to cut him down right now. You can't do an honorable mention, Steve.
I know. I would say that the original Star Wars, John Williams,
All right,
is untouchable.
All right. How about you, Aaron?
Well, Steve's this motherfucker who stole my picks.
you thunder stealing prick, you.
We can have double picks. It's fine because we're all from the same family.
You guys are cousins.
The same fan. So definitely Blade Runner is my favorite movie of all time. So the soundtrack, of course, goes right along with that. Star Wars, I would say if I had to pick a favorite Star Wars film, movie soundtrack, I would go with probably Return of the Jedi, because you get everything that had already come in Star Wars and Empire, Imperial March, but you also get the Emperor's theme, which isn't in the first two. Yeah, but you know,
and
also,
Laptinek.
Say that again.
And Laptinek.
Exactly. Right. I prefer Laptinek to Jedi Rocks. Come on.
Yes.
But also I'm gonna throw in The Dark Knight. I mean, there's many other favorite, but The Dark Knight, dude. I mean, you get the great stuff that was established in Batman Begins, but then you get also the Joker's theme and all that weird stuff they did in that soundtrack. That's
the Joker's theme with that one high-pitched violin note just going, and it bends just a little bit, and it's still going, and it's still going, and then he stabs the guy. Fucking love it.
Yeah, that's.
Oh no!
Oh no, we missed his.
Aaron has left the chat.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
He's like, peace out. He doesn't even want to hear mine.
He's like, that Star Wars shit was the end, man. I can't.
That was it. Mike, drop him out.
Yeah, you can't top that.
I'm leaving.
Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
So the two that jump, I'm only going to say two. The two that jump out to me, I'll start with my second favorite would be Poltergeist. The score to that just gets to me. I don't know what it is, like that Carol Ann's theme. It just, especially like once you have kids, like I think of Poltergeist totally different now than I did when I first watched it, because
100%.
now I have a daughter, and I'm like, okay, so this movie is like messing with me on a whole nother level. So when I hear Carol Ann's theme, it just, I don't know. There's something about that one. I own both versions. I have the OG, and then I have the one that what a Death Waltz or Mondo, one of those. Yeah, one of them put out the sort of the expanded, better version. So I have both of those. But my number one, and I'll keep this brief, is I think it's the scariest movie music ever made, Friday the 13th Part 2, and I'll die on that hill. I think and it could just be that like that's my favorite Friday the 13th movie, and I think it's just a matter of where you were when that, whatever movie that was for you, when you were at that really impressionable age where you watched a movie that just really haunted you. So like at the time I was a Boy Scout, my parents were sending me out to Boy Scout camp for like a week or 2 weeks. I'm living in the woods for like 2 weeks, but I'm from the city, right? So, you know, there are a lot of things about Friday the 13th Part 2 that really like got to me. And when I hear that music now, it just it's the most horrifying music to me. I don't think anybody can top what Harry Manfredini did. And I know he borrowed heavily from Bernard Herrmann, and you know, but it doesn't matter. That's the scariest music. All that shrill violin, man, get out of here with that.
Right.
The subtle.
Okay, you know what? I mean, life is about breaking rules sometimes. Can I have?
Oh, here we go.
I got one more honorable mention.
Come on.
There you go.
Okay.
See how he does?
The OG 1968 Planet of the Apes score is so good. I recommend, if you've never heard it before, listen to it when you're driving at night somewhere, or if it's not too cold outside, sit out on your back deck at nighttime, put in earbuds and put that in. It'll freak you out, especially like the Forbidden Zone stuff. So good. Jerry Goldsmith's one of his finest scores.
Nice.
I do love Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh yeah,
It's hard to beat him.
I'll throw one out there also.
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh yeah,
That's a good one.
I love that. When I was in my writing days, that was one of those scores that I would just put on in the background, and if that was on, it was on a loop. I was in that zone for 8-10 hours, just writing full nonstop.
Yeah,
and it was very, very helpful.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of people say that kind of stuff to us, like when we're playing live shows or whatever. They'll come and see us and they'll be like, man, you guys are my go-to band when I'm writing or when I'm like doing this, or when they're always doing something where they can't, where they can't have lyrics messing with them. They're trying to think, so we get a lot of that. So no, I totally get like playing soundtrack music. I do it when I'm at work, that again, my vinyl problem, it's right behind here. And I'm spinning records all day long when I'm working.
There you go. Aaron, I think you still had 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 picks left. How many do you have?
That was it. Sorry.
How much time do you have?
Because while you were gone, I put in 1 more pick myself.
You did.
Yep.
God, Steve.
Much to Gregory's dismay.
That's right.
I'm
That's
throwing
right.
in Predator too, just because of that. How about that?
That's good.
Oh, good.
That's a good one.
See,
And I'm throwing in Aliens too. Just
You just
That's a
made
good
that
one,
guy
too.
tonight.
yep. I would say William Superman for me. Elfman's Batman and Spider-Man I love, but man, the ones I go to, and it's pretty mainstream shit. City of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Escape from New York.
Oh
yeah, dude.
Right.
I have the deluxe. I have the deluxe one back there with all the like the movie, talking in it.
Yeah, a lot of the dialogue.
Yes. Oh yes. Fuck yeah, man. That one's awesome. And then I work in the fog too. I love the.
I love the fog.
Yeah.
So good.
All right, Ziggy, get another question in here.
You guys Colonel, you didn't want to throw out any
Or Colonel?
soundtracks there?
Yeah, I want to hear what you guys like. Come on, go around the table.
Soundtracks and everything. Fuck it. What are your favorite horror films? Because we are technically a horror podcast. I got to fit this in here somewhat, just a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll answer that, but only after you tell us what your favorite film scores are.
Oh God,
You uncultured swine. What do you like?
I'm a basic bitch. Star Wars. Horror, one that I don't think it's enough credit is the Phantasm main theme.
Oh my gosh, we covered it.
Oh
You
my
covered
God.
it?
See, you're our guy, man.
Look that up on Spotify, then it worked more.
Yeah.
And
I don't think you can stream it yet.
oh,
It's on a record, but
Yeah, it's on a campaign. what's the word I'm looking for?
Kickstarter.
A companion album to this upcoming documentary where the guy interviews all the great composers.
I got you.
So
Scored to death.
He wanted to do a record that covered some of those great songs. So it's we're on there
With some other pretty big, well-known people too, right? Who is it? The Halloween guy, Alan Howarth.
Yep,
He's on there. Richard Christie from Death is on there.
And
and,
Richard Christie.
Yeah, Howard Stern, Richard Christie.
and Holly
He's got a song on there.
Holly Amber Church, who did the theme song to Cabinet of Curiosities, which I think was either nominated or won a Grammy for the for that music. So it's got a lot of folks on there, and then they included us too. What do you know? It's crazy.
Yeah, so we did the Phantasm theme, and I still go back to that and listen to it, and I'm like, man, for the short amount of time that we had to like turn that around, came out pretty good.
Yeah,
Definitely have to find that somewhere.
I was just putting that on. I made a little ID with A. Michael Baldwin for the beginning of the show, and I kind of layered in a little bit of that old theme in there just for for shits and giggles. Who's the other one? Oh, the Thing, Morricone.
Morricone. Ennio Morricone has so many good soundtracks.
Yes.
Don't even get me started.
No. FaZe, what about you? What's your score of choice?
God, I don't know. I always think the Warriors when it comes to
I would have
a
said
movie
that.
score. You already said that.
I would have. I mean, if not,
Oh, you would have.
Yeah.
No, nobody said that. You're the first one.
It's right in there.
I love
Other
it.
than that, I mean, Star Trek movies always have good scores.
Oh yeah, that's Jerry Goldsmith, right?
John Carpenter, of course.
I think
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
Well, Glenn, this just proves what you and I were talking about at Motor City Nightmares. We're all like-minded.
Yeah.
We all like the same stuff.
Yep. Lorena says soundtrack of The Damned, best ever,
Mm.
In her opinion.
in her opinion.
Nice.
Comments?
Who's commenting?
You guys.
Oh.
I'm asking. What do you think about that
Yeah,
statement?
soundtrack of The Damned, best ever.
I don't know if I know that.
See, look at that.
The film is called The Damned. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Or is it
Directed.
soundtrack of the Damned?
I can't. I wasn't sure because I mean
I can't. I don't even know what it is.
I'm not
She
getting
hits us
anything
with
in my
obscure
head.
stuff all the time like this. So
Well,
don't be-
see, that's why we love to do podcasts like this because I just learned something.
Yeah.
I got something to watch. I don't know that one.
Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna-
just lost some street cred
I'm
over
gonna
here.
go,
that comes from the grindhouse, right from the fucking basement. So
Cool.
Groovy, man.
It says
Yep.
The Damned, 1969.
Okay, thank you.
She follows
Yeah,
that
we're
up
gonna
with
go
this
watch that.
So,
Damn straight.
So, favorite horror movies?
Yeah,
yeah,
he asked us.
Apparently my question fucking sucks, so we're just gonna skip right over top.
Oh,
of it.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Nope.
No. So we're talking scores. Let's talk. What's
Yeah.
your favorite horror movie? You can keep it to
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Because we do
Steve-
honorable mentions on our show,
Oh,
Steve.
Good. I'm gonna do
You're fine
7.
with
That's
honorable
wonderful.
Steve,
Yeah,
Steve won't keep it to 3. He'll keep,
Steve's gonna do about 25. So I hope you're.
I got my follow up ready. So whenever we
Okay.
get to that, I'll be ready.
Steve, I have your PowerPoint presentation ready to go
Oh,
too.
thank you very much. I have the clicker right here. Oh, we go.
Here's what Greg and Aaron are about to say to Steve if he goes too long.
Yeah, exactly.
We go too long.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That's from Howard Stern, man. I like it.
I'm gonna keep it to. I'm gonna keep it to 2. Are you ready? Are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah. So you say.
So I said earlier that one of my favorite scores is Day of the Dead, and that's true. But I think my absolute favorite horror movie is Dawn of the Dead. There's something about that, the exact time that it was filmed, the fucking film grain, the color, the dialogue of the time. I love it when you can see Foxmore store in there because my mom, when I was like 5 years old, worked at a Foxmore, so I got pleasant memories of Foxmore when I was a kid. So Dawn of the Dead. And then Phantasm,
Oh,
unbeatable. It's the creepiest shit. It's the whole movie's like a nightmare. You're trying to follow it. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. So there you go.
Crank and I got to go to the Monroeville Mall and actually walk
Nice.
around there.
Oh man, I want to do that.
Dude,
It's-
if you ever
dude, it's
go,
worth
take the tour, man, because that's it. And he'll show you like columns in the mall. You're going like this. What the fuck? This is stupid. Then they take you down the hall to the back and the basement that looks exactly the same.
Oh, nice,
It's the
nice.
same.
Awesome.
I'm
It's
definitely gonna do
fascinating.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
What we'll do is the next time Voyager 3 plays like in New York, because I
Yeah.
think in 2015, I have a poster up on the wall of it. We played it in New York, in Brooklyn, New York in 2015. The next time we do an East Coast thing, we're stopping in Pittsburgh, and we're gonna do that. We have to. It is
worth
a
it.
must.
You guys are all fans. You have to, just for the. I mean, and the guy that gives the fucking tour, he's got it hands down.
Oh my
He
God.
reenacts the shit there for you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
He does the whole stumbling down the escalator bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so
All right
good.
on.
Man.
It's hysterical.
Very cool.
Okay,
All right.
Aaron, we got to get Aaron's movies here.
Yep.
I'll do, in honor of Steve, I'll do two. I'm gonna go with one that affected me so terribly as a kid, and then became a favorite. American Werewolf in London, because
Good one.
I remember seeing that. I was about 7, too young to see that movie, and
Just a touch.
but we were in an old timey theater that's long closed, but it was the kind that have the curtains over to the side for like
Yeah.
the exits, with like a little hallway, like really elaborate. And we were sitting over to the side close to that exit, and I was like, no, why are we close to that? And the stuff in the movie, I love werewolf stuff. Like I have a lifelong love of werewolf stuff because of that movie. But it's more than just a werewolf movie, with all that weird stuff going on with his friend coming back as like a more deteriorating zombie in his brain, in his
That's
head.
the best.
And the stuff with the guys who just bust into that family's house and start shooting them. All these weird fever dreams he was having really knocked the movie into another level. And but so as it's going, I'm more and more scared because we're so close to that exit, and I didn't know what was going to come through there. So I did my defense that I used as a kid. I made myself go to sleep. And I said, nothing can get you if you're sleeping, so fuck this. And but obviously through the years I saw it many times, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. Yeah. And then another one, I think let's go with Inferno, because Dario Argento's Inferno, because that's a movie I watched, way more recently. It's probably 20 years ago, but that movie felt like just a long dream or nightmare to me. So much of it doesn't make sense, and I like that. I like that it doesn't have to all add up. The part that got me, that I knew I would love it from then on, is when she goes down to the basement, and she finds like the half the basement is submerged in water of that huge hotel, and her necklace falls into the water. And I go, man, wouldn't it be totally insane if she went into that water? And then she does, and I like, okay, you win. That's it. This is a perfect movie. So, and you can't forget that scene later where the guy is out walking in the park, and the dude who's running like the little hot dog stand just runs over to him and butchers him for absolutely no reason. So it was so surreal. So yeah, I'll say that's another one of my top.
And Keith Emerson's score on that elevates it to a next level. It's a lot of that organ work that he does on there, just incredible.
Yeah, and the colors and everything, all that Argento red and green and blue, surreal colors that would never be in the real world, So yeah, that's one.
All right. Greg, did we get yours?
Nope.
I pretty much like blew mine when I talked about how wonderful it was a few minutes ago, but definitely Friday the 13th Part 2.
Okay.
And then the other one is just basic Exorcist. I think it's the scariest movie ever made.
Yeah.
And so that would probably be my top 2 if I'm talking horror.
All Let me hit a couple of viewer questions here. Grizzly wants to throw in, if you're taking it from us in the Peanut Gallery, Carpenter's The Thing, all-time best horror for him. Good choice.
Sure.
Good choice.
Yeah,
You'll
excellent
have Al
choice.
right. Yeah.
And then he also had a question about writing songs for specific scenes with timing already set for you. Is that harder or easier to write with?
It's both, because
Yeah.
it gives us a structure to go with, but it also, you know, like say you have a part that you really like and you want to jam on that part for a while, you can't necessarily do it if the scene is only so long. So it can hold you back sometimes as far as really giving a like really getting into something, really letting something build. And then sometimes you can make that work. If a scene is longer, you know, you can really ride it out. But I think we all like this stuff where it's like, okay, they're walking along the beach now, so we want to get this vibe. Oh, okay, here come the assholes that they have to fight. So now we're gonna bust into something like that, and so we like that it's an inspiration, really, just in and of itself, to guide us along and say, okay, what can you give me for this? What can you give me for that? What would the audience want to hear? What would we want to hear? You know, so it's a great challenge.
Yeah, I look at it as it is kind of two different ways to write. If you're going to write a song in and of itself, you know, maybe it's a more rock arrangement, let's just say. You can do that and you can repeat the stuff, you know, and come back to it if you want to. But like a little cue that's a minute and 20 seconds, you got to be clever, reserved, or thoughtful, or, you know, you got to do it just right. You know,
Right.
And that's a different animal. And I love both of those. To me, they're just, which hat do you want to wear on any given day? I love them both, and they have their own things about them. It's cool.
Yeah, so like Glenn, you'll know what I'm talking about, but like sometimes it feels unnatural, like the way you have to like progress quickly. Like if, like they were saying, if you got a minute and 20 seconds to get an idea across and you want to fully realize that idea before that minute and 20 seconds is up. Like when you're playing in a rock band, like Steve said, and you're writing like traditional rock songs with rock structure, sort of think of the Beatles, right? You know, they're like the blueprint for that. But like when you're doing it, when you're trying to fit it into a movie, like you're like, okay, you got to make it all happen quickly. So like, oh, this pause is only going to literally last a second, and then we're going to go on to that next thing, and like, you know, start getting to that part so that by the time it's all said and done, we're out by 1 minute 20. You know, so it is a challenge. You know, especially if you grew up playing rock music. You know what I mean, or like are used to, you know, traditional song structure, doing like forcing it to fit into these small little increments of time is challenging. And then, you know, to do it justice and make, hopefully everybody likes it, you know. So,
Right.
Yeah. And then
no pressure.
Sometimes they can even get deeper than that on certain cues. I tend to not do that right away, but if I have to, I will. But like actually changing the BPM for one little part to the next, sometimes you have to do that. So like when we're recording,
Beats per minute,
you can hear it change, like the click will change, and you got to kind of get right on board with that right away. And sometimes if that's too ridiculous, then we'll just do it in pieces and just put it together. You know, you got to do what you got to do, you know, because sometimes a tempo change is so jarring or so weird that you just can't do it, you know, like unless you're Jaco Pastorius or something like that.
right? You like cut anything and then like, all right, call it a day, come back the next day, wake up in the middle of the night, wait a minute, I got it, and bring it in there and just drop the bomb like that.
Yeah, all the above has happened at some time or another, no doubt, especially during COVID. When I was kind of putting some of the like tent pole lumber frameage together for a lot of the cues in New York Ninja, I would try to do 1 or 2 cues a night. So every night around 2:30 in the morning, I know.
Yeah, my phone would be going off.
They would get emails with the Dropbox link to the MP3 of what I was actually I did MOV files because it was with the video. So that, you know, they get a total feel for it for the initial passes on all this stuff.
Mhm.
So sometimes it was late, like really late. And I'm like, I gotta go to bed because my kids don't care how late I stayed up, but I gotta finish this last little bit. So some of those were kind of crazy, and I had to have a lot of coffee the next morning.
Yeah, I remember. Steve's brain was on fire when he did so much of the heavy lifting for New York Ninja, and at first I was like, dude, slow the fuck down, because I was like, how am I supposed to come up with guitar parts for 15 things that you sent in 1 week, and then as I'm thinking of that, you're sending 10 more. So I was overwhelmed, and there was so much music, and I'm like watching the movie, listening to Steve's stuff, and I was like, I don't know where to even begin. I have no idea where I can fit my stuff in here. Not even where I can fit it, but what I can come up with, because there's just, I'm overwhelmed. And then I said, well, okay, all right, here you go. How about you start with 1? Who cares if there's 15? Like, take the first one and pick that apart and see, and just get, I just relaxed, I got my acoustic guitar. I didn't have to plug anything in. I got my acoustic guitar. I'm like listening to the stuff Steve's coming with on the computer, watching the movie, and then I just start going bling ding, and I start coming up with stuff, and I go, yeah, that works. And then I
Nice.
and then and I started sending stuff to the guys, like adding my stuff to Steve's stuff.
Yeah, we're like, oh, this is exactly right.
Spending like 3 or 4 a day, and I'm like, yeah, all right, see, I can do it too. Once I started rolling, it got way easier, and also I remember when some stuff I didn't have yet, right? Like I was working through what I had, and then other stuff I was going to get to later. But then when Greg was recording his drums, and I was doing my scratch track with guitar, just kind of so we could know where we were and everything, and keeping track of everything, I started coming up with stuff for the parts that I didn't have yet. And I was like, well, that works too. And then I'd listen to it a day later, and if I still liked it, good. And if I didn't, I would come up with something better. But so I was like, I was literally coming up with that on the fly while Greg was recording.
Oh, yeah, there is countless parts on New York Ninja where that was what Aaron was looking at and just doing. And because it was set up to record properly, you could keep it if you wanted to. And we did a lot of that.
Yeah.
That's all over the place, where it's just like, that's the first thing that came to his mind as he was watching the Ninja whoop ass. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Some like if there were mistakes, then I'd do it over again and recreate it. But some stuff I was like, no, that's good, I'm not touching that, just leave it the way it is, just from the like a sort of a demo or a scratch track, so
Tarek says, since he mentioned video editing, I want to give props to Steve for the cool use of lighting in Il Guanto Nero.
Thank you.
Nice.
And
We were freezing cold, so it was out of necessity to get it done.
The lights were needed for heat.
Yeah.
Right. In a lot of cases, yes.
Yeah.
Tarek, he also wants to know, is there an existing horror movie from any time period that you wish you could have cracked at rescoring with your own sound? And do you ever do that for inspiration or kicks?
What the fuck, man? It's like they took the questions right out of the ones we wrote.
Wow.
I sent Tarek our
He got a
notes.
copy? Okay.
No.
Man, I will say that is a very good question.
That is a good question.
Glenn's like, yeah, I fucking wrote that question, and I didn't even get to ask it.
I was saving that one.
Who's got an answer on that one?
Well, I'll give you one. I don't really rescore anything, probably mostly because I don't have time to. But the asterisk on that is right when we first started Voyager 3, I didn't have kids yet, and I did have some extra time.
Yeah.
So on my YouTube channel, just for the fun of it, it wasn't a contracted job or anything like that whatsoever. It was just because I had some time and I wanted to do it. I took the opening to GoldenEye, James Bond GoldenEye, and I muted out the audio, but I was able to keep a little bit of Foley because the Foley happened to hit where there really wasn't any of the original score. So wherever I could keep some Foley, like the rope sound and the chain and the gate opening and blah, 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 I kept that. And I did rescore that one night just for the hell of it. Like, this is probably 12 years ago now, or however long ago it was. And that turned out fun, but I haven't really done that since. It's just time consuming, and we're literally working on actual stuff. So that doesn't really, and plus I also do like mixing and mastering for clients too. So I'm always doing actual work, so that the sandbox free time is limited. But I did do one time.
Nice. Not the same thing, but I remember back when I was like a teenager on VHS, I kind of recut and rescored the battle scene from Highlander with Led Zeppelin's Kashmir.
Oh, nice.
And that was just a goopy little like 6-minute video or whatever it was, 7-minute video that kind of got passed around by my friends way back in the day.
If you still have a link to that, can you send that to us?
Dude, create it now. No,
that's not a link. It's literally a VHS. I mean, I was splicing tape together for that one.
Yes,
nice.
It was a pain in the ass. What would you rescore?
See, I don't know, man. Like
Friday the 13th Part 2.
I'm kind of no. I'm a purist. I kind of like once you've seen the movie with the music that it came out with, like I hate to think of like redoing it. I don't know. Like even if the music's not like the best, it's still sort of like part of that. No, I don't know.
I disagree because they just did the composer's cut for the Zombie, and it had extra shit in there, and it's fucking cool, man. It actually adds to the fucking movie.
Oh, you mean like the library cues, like that thing that came out, that 3-record thing?
It's called the composer's cut. They actually added like some of the dialogue between the doctor and his wife going, "You bastard, you knew this was going on." When that's all, it's quiet. Yeah. There's no music at all.
Okay.
Now they've got this heavy ass fucking building tension while they're doing this, and I was just like, I was blown away.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to like admit to hating a movie score to want to rescore it. I don't know if I'm the guy for that.
You can't do it. He says
I can't do it, man.
They're perfect.
I actually do have one, but I'll let Aaron go.
I got one, but see, I know what you're saying, Greg, but I'm gonna let my guilt go, like what you because I do love the music to this movie, but I want to score this director's whatever movie he does in the future. I think.
I know where you're headed.
We're destined to do a George P. Cosmatos score one day.
Oh, Panos.
Even what? Yeah.
Panos.
Well, his son. Okay,
Yeah.
not George. He's dead.
Tombstone.
His son now does movies, and his
Tombstone's great.
Killer.
I love Tombstone, but Panos did Mandy, and I love that movie to death, and I love the music. But I would love to do like our version of music to that movie, just so we could impress him, and he could go, "Oh, next movie." That would be my pitch.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's our calling card.
Yeah,
Right.
So let us know when you got another movie coming.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Trust me, I think Panos has been like hashtagged on enough of our shit that he knows that we're basically stalker level at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude, throw us a bone.
Okay, here's one. Are you ready? Here's one. It's not because I don't like the score. The score is perfect to it. But if you have to pick one, I think it would be fun to rescore Night of the Living Dead. And I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't actually have a proper score to it. What they did with Night of the Living Dead is because of budget and time constraints, mainly budget, is that they just used library music and some music that was used on previous films that they could get for a cheap price, or some royal public domain type stuff. And they used it in clever ways. They used clips of it, and they ran it through a tape delay or echoplex type of a thing. And that's some of that weirdness that you get where it really sounds freaky. That's because it's just looping and feedbacking on itself through a tape delay. So it never got its own score composed by somebody, like traditionally, just because they couldn't do that. Let me reiterate that the score to Night of the Living Dead is perfect, but that might be fun to try to do that.
I think so too, and
That's That almost sounds like a challenge. Though.
I'm saying, man. I mean, shit, man. You guys could fucking sell it because.
Yeah, I like Steve's answer. Can I just use Steve's answer?
Well, it's like using Tarek's question, so yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that could lead into almost like a Panos Cosmatos type of a thing, is because George Romero's son is in the middle of producing what is supposedly the final Dead film.
Right.
So hey, call us. You know,
Twilight. Is that what it's called? Twilight of the Dead.
Twilight of the Dead.
I think so. I do believe so. But you know, that could change. You never know. You
Sure.
never know. But I think so.
Do the dead sparkle in this one?
Dude,
I hope not.
I
Yeah,
hope not.
Survival of the
No.
Dead was bad enough, man. I don't know if I can handle it.
yes. I mean, if they take his words and actually do it how he meant it, well, I don't know, because that last one was really bad. I'm pretty sure he meant to do it that one that way, you know. So
The diary.
no, Diary is
Well,
okay.
Survival.
Survival. With the horse and the kind of the island.
Yeah.
Whether like with it's kind of like cowboys. It's kind of like a western, but in New England or something, right?
It is. That one is
and
very
they still
bizarre.
had Irish accents, like real thick Irish accents. It's so.
It's like a
weird.
shitty Walking Dead. I mean, it's really bad. You know, nothing happens.
Now I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah, you know. You never seen this? Fuck, man. I don't know.
No, no, I don't.
It's
Yep.
not a recommendation, but you know, if you haven't seen it, you probably should, based on it is a Romero film.
Right. So
Right, exactly.
what's that one category for the collector?
Yeah, I'm a completist.
Completist.
Fantastic
Completist.
Five, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is literally the only reason I own that movie, is to complete the Dead series. I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta buy it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I hear you.
Well,
Yeah, I saw it once, and it didn't blow me away. But maybe I need to watch it again to see if there's any other, like, you know, deeper subtext or anything like that. But I
No.
think a lot of people would say no.
I think that's it. I think the social commentary is really weak in that one, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's not like Dawn is perfect, you know, and
Yeah.
not so much.
Like I said, when I seen a zombie riding a horse, that's when I kind of checked out. I was like, all right.
Right. I hear you.
But fighting a shark, that's okay.
Hey,
That's
you
okay.
shut your whore mouth over there. That's with my Fulci now.
Oh man.
All right. What's next for Voyager 3? Another tour? I know you guys just did another couple of dates in Nashville and Atlanta with Cybertronic 3.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing more shows because you know the vinyl just came out for Killer Kabbage, so there's kind of like that whole wave of kind of playing some shows and getting out there and letting people get the record and all that sort of stuff. But like true artists, man, we're ready to probably make more music. To be honest with you, you know.
Another album then maybe?
Yep.
Or is there any more?
We had
films?
pretty much. No. Well, we had pretty much a whole record ready to go when we got offered Killer Kabbage.
That's
Like,
I want to.
yeah. It's
want
even
to-
demoed a lot too.
Nice.
I want to make an album that isn't a soundtrack, so we can just have a little more structural freedom to just let parts stretch out and stuff, and just
Right. Yeah, like more like our first 3 records that were
Yeah.
actual film scores. Because there's like we said earlier with that excellent question, those 2 different mojos. It will be great after 2 scores to get back to, you know, a synth rock record, I guess, or whatever you'd like to call it. But you know, rock arrangement or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, guys, definitely let us know when anything else is going on. By the way, Steve, Lorena loves your dog making appearances in the background every now and then.
Yeah, thank you. That's Zira. She celebrated her 15th birthday back in September. Where is she?
Wow.
Hi, Zira.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's a what's called a shorty Jack. Jack Russell.
there we
So
go.
She's got those little stubby legs, and she's got that Jack Russell spirit. So she'll yell at you if you're not doing what she wants you to do, and she got no problem yelling at me every day.
And you know, her name is representing another one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, Planet of the Apes. So
Oh, you see, guys, you see how we're on
Yep.
the same wavelength? What did I say
There we
earlier? Yeah,
You mentioned that
Was that-
earlier.
Is
may have
that
been
when
you-
Aaron went dark?
Yeah, that may have been when you dipped out.
yeah.
And BK up there in Michigan, he also says the Russell and the Tenant Gallery are starting to host a bunch of great and different shows. Any chance of you guys maybe getting out there to one of those, or maybe to play one of those?
I don't see why not. As a matter of fact, I think somebody asked us.
We'll just show up without permission.
Oh, there you go.
That's if it's at the Russell, we're just gonna show up and play. We're not asking anybody.
Just like we did our video. Hey, we're here. Let's do this.
Let's just plug right in.
Be like, they're back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to simplify everything, more shows and more music as much as we possibly can do. That's always what we're after, for sure. Just kind of got to do it how it makes sense. And then with the holidays coming up, we probably will slow down a little bit, but we still do our podcast, V3cast. So we'll have that always going as well. So yeah, we're always just having as much fun as possible. Have a good time all the time. That was quoted by a very smart man, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. What day does your podcast drop?
Yeah. And where can they find it?
It's linked off of our actual website, so it's Voyager3.com, but you spell that VOYAG3r.com, and right at the top it says V3cast. So if you type V3cast into YouTube, it comes up. If you like to check them out with just the audio version, like an actual podcast engine, if you type in V3cast, it comes up that way too. So the YouTube is just the video version of the podcast, same edit, same everything, just with and without picture, basically.
And we have a bunch of episodes up, and we'll probably I think we're gonna get another one up coming up in the
I think we're gonna record it in the next handful of days, like this week probably.
Yeah, we're not a very disciplined podcast. Like, we don't get things done on a certain day. It's
right.
We'll put them out every once in a while if everybody can get a night to do it. Kind of like this.
The excuse that I like to use is that we're a podcast and a band. Yeah. So we gotta kind of juggle, between the two things a little bit here and there.
Sure.
But honestly, like going back to. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Does that buy us time? Is that believable, or do people think we're full of shit and we're just lazy?
Probably.
That's good enough for them. We'll do one soon.
All right.
Well, going back to what I said to Glenn earlier, like a lot of what we talk about on V3cast is very similar to this. You know what I mean? So, and it's the way, Steve and Aaron and I give each other shit the whole time about,
Well, I saw you had a couple of topics about like top Stallone films, top Schwarzenegger films.
Yeah.
Like
Spoiled that one already, though, with Rocky IV already and shit. It ruined it.
I contend that Rocky IV is the best Rocky movie, and Aaron wants to fist fight me.
That's right.
Aaron, is it 2, Aaron? It's 2, isn't it?
Well, listen.
Listen.
1 and 2 are so neck and neck, but 4 is.
4 has the best soundtrack. I think we can.
All right, cut Aaron's mic off here. Who's the admin on here?
No, I love 4, but 4 is just the pop version of Rocky,
No, here, see, there's a whole V3cast on this. If you want to hear us get it all out of our systems, just listen to that one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go listen to that while I'm also listening to the Planet of the Apes soundtrack, sitting on my front porch. So
there you go.
In the dark.
There you go. There you go.
Gang, thank you all for joining us, and let us know when you've got some new stuff coming out, or you got a tour starting. And
we'll do, man. Thanks for having us. This was absolutely a blast. We had a good time.
Yeah,
man. Thanks for entertaining us, entertaining our every whim.
We do what we can. And hopefully we get to see you when we come up to Detroit from Motor City next July.
That's right. And you guys let us have unlimited honorable mentions.
Yes.
We'll figure that out.
Figure it out.
No, see, you got to start editing, Steve. If you're going to be on with Steve, you got to edit him.
See, Greg's just going to come over and start editing this shit later.
Yeah, Greg's going to drop the hammer.
Yeah, there'll be no Aaron and Steve. It's the Greg show for sure.
Yeah, this is G3cast, not V.
G3cast. Yeah, I like that. I like where your head's at.
Oh man,
that's awesome. Man. Thanks, guys, and we will catch you next time. And keep rocking, man. We'll see you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
All right, see you guys.
One more time, thanks to our members, our final girls and guys: Christy, Faze, Lorena, BD, Alex, and Robert. Our crazy Ralph's Bell's Fancy Creations, Dr. Smiley, Raymond, and the whole damn enchilada pod, and of course our camp counselors, Adam, Corey, Christy, Luke, Jimmy and Rachel, Stacy Lynn, Orlando, Chuck Schick,
Chuck, Chuck.
Dave, Patricia, Kristen, and JJ.